Update. Boss wants everyone in office to submit an updated medical history to him. Original post. To get to the main issue, one of my friend's coworkers passed away while at work last month. It was apparently a massive heart attack. He was under 50, so it shocked everyone. More so because it happened literally at his desk in the middle of a shared open plan office. While at the wake, my friends and the deceased's direct boss was talking to some family members and informally learned that the worker who died had some existing high blood pressure and other health problems that he had been neglecting to treat. Relatives apparently think he would not have died had he been more vigilant with his health, a moot point and certainly none of his boss or co-workers' business. The boss has taken this situation pretty hard. I gather he was extremely freaked out on the day of the incident. And the information that the worker had a pre-existing medical condition that could have potentially predicted what happened seems to have sparked an idea in his head. On Friday, he announced to the office as a whole, all 20-ish of his direct reports, part of a larger company of 250 to 300 people, that he is giving them until May 1st, specifically after a tax season, because he thinks he is being nice and unnecessarily accommodating of people's time, to provide him personally, not HR, not higher execs, just him, an updated copy of your full medical history. According to him, this means a visit with a GP no less than 6 months prior to the due date and fully accounting by the doctor for all at-risk health factors, as well as a full further accounting of all risk factors in your full medical history. These are direct quotes. He gave everyone a memo. The wording in the memo is pretty basic directions in poorly thought-out legalese. Some of it almost stream of consciousness in style. He is in the habit of dictating to his assistant and gets pretty uptight about her recording exactly what he said, and not rewording things to make more sense when he is vague or grammatically confusing, even with his important correspondence. He is claiming this policy will allow him to prevent further trauma-inducing incidents. You know, like a co-worker dying very suddenly at his desk a few feet away from you. And honestly seems to believe this will protect the company from legal harassment in case anyone wants to sue for the trauma of witnessing a death in the workplace. I guess the idea is that if he knows a co-worker is likely to die suddenly, he can fire them first to prevent anything from falling back on him or the company. It doesn't seem to make much sense on the surface, and I can't guess if this is truly his real motivation. Also, as if a medical history works in a way to accurately predict sudden deaths of that type, he is clearly not rational about this plan. Honestly, to me, it sounds like he was freaked out by witnessing the incident himself, and when the thought crossed his mind to sue the company for his own trauma, it eventually turned into an idea to play it off as if he's a good policymaker trying to protect the company from legal trouble, from people like himself. Apparently, he's been angling for a promotion for years and has in the past already come up with some pretty harebrained schemes to suck up to his own bosses. Anyway, my friend is pretty level-headed and her immediate instinct is to go to HR on Monday and let them know what's going on. But the way she presented the story to me gave me pause. She described it casually over drinks last night like, "Listen to this completely illegal thing my boss is trying to do." It does seem to me like he's crossing some dubious legal lines, but I've been lurking here long enough to see a lot of people come in with workplace issues they are sure are 100% against the law, and it often turns out the answer to, "Can they do this?" is, "Yup, totally." I think the question of, "Is this stupid for my boss to do, and should I bring it to HR or higher-ups?" is a pretty clear yes, since it doesn't have to be illegal for HR to have other reasons to want to shut this down immediately. Still, I'm curious about the actual legality of what this blowhard is planning. I could speculate that, at the very least, it seems like it could easily run afoul of the ADA. Thanks in advance for any input. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Yeah, that's absolutely not going to fly. The only medical history he's allowed to know for certain is that you were born. As stated above, they can ask for a bit more but not a lot. Jobs can ask that you get a yearly physical form signed stating the provider has no reason to believe you are unable to safely perform the duties listed. I work for a large social services company with our own legal department. We require a physical for people working with medically fragile folks, little kids, direct care with lifting people, very active jobs where you travel all day, and people approved to drive a shuttle-type van for taking folks on outings. We don't require it for, like, social workers who staff a housing office, the IT people, therapists serving the general population, or anyone else where there isn't a direct occupational reason. And we don't ask for details other than that a physical was performed, and the provider is cool with the person driving or lifting or breathing on people. It's reasonable to slightly violate employees' privacy to reduce the risk of someone with a known condition crashing the van or dropping a kid. It isn't reasonable to ask for full medical records so you can magically predict whether the IT guy might keel over. The EEOC has a good FAQ on medical-related inquiries in a workplace. I would suggest your friend read this and then go to HR. Oh, thank you. This looks very helpful. What stands out to me immediately is this part. Disability-related inquiries and medical examinations of employees must be job-related and consistent with business necessity. Do you think he could argue that it's a business necessity to not, say, disrupt the office with a supposedly predictable, traumatizing death? Or is that too much on the side of opinion to count legally? In my opinion, that is far too general to meet the job-related and consistent with business necessity prong. Look at it this way, you need to be alive to do any job on Earth. Per the EEOC, an employer's reasonable belief that an employee's ability to perform essential job functions will be impaired by a medical condition, or that he or she will pose a direct threat due to a medical condition, must be based on objective evidence obtained or reasonably available to the employer prior to making a disability-related inquiry or requiring a medical examination. Such a belief requires an assessment of the employee and his or her position and cannot be based on general assumptions. Now for the update. Just got off the phone with my friend a few minutes ago, and it is official. Boss is now ex-boss. My friend did, in fact, go to HR as she was planning, and laid out the situation for them. They seemed concerned and assured her they would look into it, and then she heard no more of it for about a week. Ex-boss was also suspiciously quiet about the policy during that time period, until last Monday he was not in the office. There was no explanation given to the office at large, but my friend spoke to his assistant and, from the information she got from her, pieced together that he was in some long important meetings with corporate HR, and that he would then be taking the rest of the week on personal leave. Well, the weekend passed and he didn't return. The office was in limbo for the beginning of this week, but today someone came down from corporate and announced that ex-boss was officially no longer working for the company, and that new corporate guy would be serving as their temporary supervisor until a new one was hired. Obviously, everything largely went on behind the scenes, but since my friend was the one to blow the whistle to her friend in HR, yes, I did see the comments on the previous thread about how HR is never your friend LOL, she managed to get a couple of details at lunch about the way it all went down. Apparently, corporate was initially quickly and heavily concerned about ex-boss's scheming because he does have a history of dumb ideas that blew up in his or someone else's face. He had, in the past, always managed to take the heat off himself by throwing someone else under the bus. When local HR came to him to tell him that this new policy was officially stupid and would cause him and the company far more liability than he could possibly save them from, he threw a temper tantrum and insisted that the higher execs would understand what a good idea it was. The meetings with corporate were initially them trying to talk him down and explain why he was wrong. He resisted this strongly and turned them into seminars on why he was actually right. Eventually, a VP got involved, and it was over. Ex-boss was not technically fired, but he was strongly encouraged to submit his resignation, and he will not be getting any reference other than a confirmation that he did, in fact, work there. My friend hasn't personally heard anything from the guy since he suddenly disappeared from the office. If he's contacted any of her co-workers, they didn't share it with her. She's pretty excited to see the last of him, and is hoping her new boss will be less of a moron. Apparently, one of her longtime co-workers who has always been a bit of a mentor figure to her is being considered for a promotion internally, instead of them hiring someone new as supervisor. So my friend might even materially benefit from this fiasco. Again, my thanks to everyone who provided me with info and advice, and also to those who are just supportive. I did drop off commenting after a few hours because I do browse Reddit most of my workday, and I am paranoid about accidentally commenting with my main when I mean to use my throwaway, and vice versa. So I just stayed logged out of this account. Sorry for the lack of real-time clarification, but hopefully this update makes up for it. Ex-boss didn't need everyone's medical history. What he needed was therapy. And I don't say that flippantly. Clearly, he was traumatized and was making it everyone's problem by trying to control their health. As I was reading, I figured he doubled down in his HR meetings and wouldn't drop it, hence the resignation/firing. HR wasn't going to fire him for a boneheaded scheme. They would fire him if he wouldn't drop it when told to drop it by his bosses. People drop dead in all kinds of places. At work, in front of colleagues, can leave the witnesses traumatized. Rather than lean into counseling to help people heal, former boss leaned hard into his boneheaded scheme based on third-party hearsay that the co-worker didn't take care of his high blood pressure. That doesn't keep people from having fatal car accidents when traveling for work or between corporate offices. Doesn't keep them from choking on a bone at lunch. Doesn't keep them from falling downstairs and hitting their head in such a way they don't wake up. One place I worked had that happen. It was a small startup with 2 founders. One of the founders died of a heart attack in the middle of interviewing someone. Last story. Update. 3 years ago, my ex forged medical records to lie about vaccinating our daughter and landed her in the hospital. Original post. My ex and I split up before our daughter's birth. There were a variety of reasons for this that I won't get into here. One of them, though, was her anti-science beliefs. She's an anti-vaxxer and doesn't trust science or medicine at all. Well, this sucks because our daughter was born premature and immunocompromised. We have 50-50 custody of her, but due to her condition and my ex's anti-science beliefs, we argue constantly about how to handle her. Recently, our daughter made incredible progress, and last year was given the go-ahead to get vaccinated for certain viruses, including chicken pox and the flu. My ex went crazy about this and started making my life a living hell and threatened up and down to take me to court. Around this time, I also got a new job that paid a considerable amount more than my old one. When this happened, I decided I wanted to move my girl into a private school that has a program for immune-compromised children, and I offered to pay 100% of tuition. The only problem, for her at least, is that this school requires students to be fully vaccinated, up to their medically allowed limit in my daughter's case. My ex fought me up and down on this, and we ended up in court. The judge agreed with me and ordered my daughter to be vaccinated. My ex had a full meltdown, but in the end agreed, only on the condition she get to take her to lessen the emotional damage and make sure the doctor doesn't poison her. I demanded the medical forms confirming this, and she agreed. So my daughter finally got vaccinated and last fall started at her awesome new school. Well, last week my daughter got incredibly sick and had to be rushed to the hospital from school. She somehow contracted varicella, chickenpox, despite supposedly being vaccinated for it. I have been stressed out from the minute I got the call and confused as all hell about how she got it. My daughter must have picked up on this and thought I was mad at her, because when I was visiting her in the hospital, she decided to tell me the secret mommy promised to make her keep. Turns out my ex did not vaccinate her. She made my daughter lie about it. Instead, she has been using special oils and salts to keep her from getting sick. What about the forms I got saying she was vaccinated? They're fake. I called the doctor and it turns out she never went in, and he never signed any forms confirming she was vaccinated. So my ex lied and forged forms to convince me she was vaccinated. I'm pissed to say the least. My daughter is in the hospital because my ex decided to let her beliefs come before our child's health. My ex doesn't know I know yet, and I told my daughter not to tell her. I want her gone now. How do I approach this to make sure my ex suffers for this? I have the forms she handed me and texts from the day she took her. I also have the doctor on record saying he never signed off on these, and that the ones I have are forged. I'm planning on speaking to a lawyer, but I would like to know going in what to do. Thank you. She was ordered by a judge to do something. Not only did she not do it, but she forged medical documents and lied in the process of not doing it. Beyond any other issue that she could get in trouble for, neglect, child safety issues, CPS issues, this is unambiguously problematic. If you have a copy of the initial court order, you could probably request one if you don't have it. That should be one of the first things you bring up with an attorney. Forgery, medical neglect, gross negligence with damages, and contempt of court. Also may be fraud, depending on jurisdiction. Some just require damage to be done by misrepresenting fact for personal gain. Others require intent to cause harm, and others require financial interest. That's one hell of a sentencing. Forget about suffering. Put that nonsense out of your head. Making your ex suffer will not make your daughter healthy. Get a lawyer, go to court. Get a copy of the court order demanding that your daughter be vaccinated, and get a witness statement from the doctor whose signature she forged indicating that your daughter had not been vaccinated. Your ex is now guilty of forgery and violating a court order. At this point, the result pretty much writes itself, and both of those things to any judge in the country. Oh, and guess what happens? Do not get a witness statement. Subpoena the doctor directly to appear on the day of the contempt hearing to verify that it is not their signature. Witness statements can and often do get thrown out. Better to just pay the doctor for the hour they will be in court and call it a day. Now for the update. Hello again, everyone out there. 3 years ago, I made a post about how my ex lied about vaccinating our daughter. Soon after, I gave an update and disappeared over the horizon. I had completely forgotten about making that post, as the last few years dealing with a global pandemic and an immunocompromised daughter have aged me 3 decades. But I saw a post recently talking about my own posts, and it came back like a ton of bricks. After wrestling to get back into this account, here I am. I hope you all are still interested in an update. Well, to give the short answer first, I have full custody of my daughter, and my ex is barred from having any contact with her. The long answer, my court battle between my ex and me was a grueling process, one of the worst periods of my life. It took over 5 months from the time I got emergency custody to get full custody of my daughter. In retrospect, those 5 months were not as long as they felt, but they felt like the longest months of my life at that point. My ex's harassment at that time got worse, even coming to my house and attempting to force herself in to take our daughter. She was arrested for this and charged with attempted forced entry. Before she could bail herself out, the DA decided to throw the book at her for forging medical documents. She ended up spending a month in jail for this, which unfortunately got our custody case continued. The upside of this was I was given a protective order for me and my daughter out of this, one that bit her in the butt when we finally got in front of a judge. I was given full custody of my daughter. My ex and her lawyer angered the judge by trying to claim that I had planned this all from the start, forcing her into a corner to vaccinate our daughter so I could use her response to initiate the custody battle. Her actions, her upcoming hearing for committing felony forgery and forced entry, along with the protective order, convinced the judge that my ex was more than a danger to our daughter. She lost all custodial rights and, as of now, is not legally allowed to contact her in any form. My protective order was extended by 2 years as well, but I didn't need it, as it was only a few months later she went to prison. My ex pleaded out. They dropped the forced entry charge, and she only got 2 years in prison for the forgery, but was still hit with a felony. She was released early due to COVID though. Since then, luckily I have had no contact with my ex outside of getting the child support I am owed. I am not really inclined to keep tabs on her personal life, but I know that she went off the conspiracy deep end. Other than that, she has disappeared from my daughter's life entirely. As for me and my daughter, the past few years have been a living nightmare. We moved to a new state, and I had to put her into fully online schooling. But our lives are great. And amazingly, my daughter was able to get the COVID vaccine only a month ago and is cleared to go to physical school once the summer ends. The saga of my life has taught me so many things. I am grateful every day to have my daughter with me, safe and in a place where she can slowly grow and get healthier. It's kind of touching that so many people are interested after all this time in a normal guy like me and my daughter. I genuinely hope this is the last update I have to make. Thank you for your interest, and see you all over the next horizon.